I'm not a great reader. I always have challenges in reading. Even, I went to school, get my grade 12 and all that. I did it, but it's been difficult. Some people reading or whatever comes very easy. Some people it's a challenge. You need to have an education. But in order to have an education, you need a background, you need a foundation. And if the foundation is shaky, everything else will be shaky. And that's what life is for me. So I struggle every day of my life.
It started for me when I was very young. I think basically low literacy is the fact that you were not developed properly from a very, very young age. Kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, even those are the years where your foundation begins, and without that foundation, you can't advance. I have to relearn and restart my life. I'm 50 years old and I'm nowhere.
I think if my parents were educated too, that they would have pushed it on me. I find that my mom, she couldn't read very well because she got high too much, drank too much, so it dribbled down to me. So I kind of forced my daughter to do a little more homework than she should, and I might be a little bit more strict on her, but when she grows up, when she wants a job, she'll get the job. Because she'll know what she's doing, she'll have the right education for it. Because I'm gonna push her until she gets it right.
The contemporary landscape, and over the past 20 years of research in the field of literacy, it's really been shaped by two forces. On the one hand, the increasing cultural and linguistic diversity of learners, and on the other hand, the changing nature of literacy itself, particularly as relates to technology. So terms like multiliteracies have entered the lexicon as a way to try and capture that complexity.
It includes social literacy, academic literacy, health literacy, political literacy. All of those are important in my mind. But obviously, if you can't read and comprehend and think critically, the other kinds of literacies can't work well.
Usually the actual reading part of literacy is a precursor to understand the systems that affect people's lives. And if you don't read, do you understand the political system? Do you understand how you can influence planning? You see a zoning sign on the street. If you can't read it, how do you voice an opinion about zoning and what's going on?
You do need to read to access information and to just get by, day to day. Forget the job, just a day-to-day experience. And so if you don't have the mind to interpret what those signs are, or to even read or be, as you say, literate, then you're operating at a deficiency.
So one more thing that went well this week?
We started the Reading Partnership for Parents program in the Kingston Galloway Orton Park community about 2 years ago, with the understanding that parents in the community needed that additional support to help their children read, and that's exactly what the program does. It teaches parents how to teach their kids to read. But what we realized is that some parents were coming through our doors who were also struggling with literacy, struggling with reading. And that led us to start thinking about how we could take inventory of the resources and supports in the community to see what's out there and to connect residents and parents to those resources and supports. And that's really what Spotlight on Literacy was all about, is bringing together residents and community stakeholders to talk about the state of literacy in the community and the types of services we needed.
Welcome, everyone. I want to thank each and every one of you for choosing to be here this evening. I can tell by the number of people in attendance that literacy is something that is important to this community. You're all very beautiful and very diverse, and that's one of the things that I love about this community, about living in this community and about serving in this community, is the diversity. Tonight, we have brought parents, residents, local teachers, and organizers from across the Kingston Galloway Orton Park community to promote literacy and to discuss the issues the community faces in terms of literacy in hopes of bringing about change.
Kingston Galloway Orton Park is an incredibly diverse neighborhood. I mean, people ask me who lives here, who doesn't live here. We have a lot of people who are transient, who are coming and staying in the shelter short periods of time. We have people who have lived in this neighborhood for 50 plus years and their parents lived in this neighborhood, and we have everybody in between. This is a community with not a lot of money. It's been underinvested for years.
So in 2005, United Way announced its Building Strong Neighborhood strategy. And we ended up in Kingston Galloway Orton Park based on the number of services that were currently offered there, other criteria like population data, looking at how young the community was, levels of crime. So it was a number of conditions identifying Kingston Galloway Orton Park as one of the 13 priority neighborhoods. There are neighborhoods that aren't in our downtown, where we haven't really built up the social services infrastructure in the same way.
The reality is children in the Kingston Galloway Orton Park community are among the least proficient readers across the province. When we look at the results for reading for children in grade 3 in KGO and you compare that to the results for children in other communities, in bordering communities, you see that the outcomes are much higher. What is creating this difference?
I have over 20 students, and next year I have over 30 students. And so just finding the time to help my children one-on-one is a very large problem that I'm having. I can do whole group instruction, but a lot of students, especially at the early ages of 4, 5, and 6, they need that one-on-one or small group instruction, which becomes very difficult when you're facing 30 students every day.
The family has to be involved. If you have a child and you have a teacher, that's great, but if you don't get the buy-in from the family, the child goes home and it's all forgotten anyway.
Parents know their children best, and they are the first and most important teacher with their children, but they may need some more guidance in what exactly are some good emergent literacy skills to help encourage in their children.
I don't believe that I just drop my child to school and that is the end of it. I have to be aware of how my child is being taught, what I can do to help my child, and be able to guide my child as well. So I need to assist the teacher in teaching my child.
The school system, it's a great system, but it can be overwhelming for a high-functioning parent. And if you're a low-functioning parent with literacy issues, those types of parents need a lot of support before they're able to assist their children in the school system.
A lot of parents, like my own, they immigrated from another country, and my mom, she never went to elementary school. Usually she has to get help from us to read or write. And I feel like there's a lot of households with that. So if teachers could understand that not every child, has the opportunity to go home and really have an intellectual conversation with their parents.
We know that in order to support students' learning, we have to have our parents involved in the learning. That doesn't only end after elementary school. Quite frankly, it goes all the way through to our secondary programs too.
But not every family is going to be able to do that. Not every family is going to have the knowledge themselves, or the interest, or the passion for it. Some parents have very, very low levels of literacy themselves, and they're not going to be able to teach their children to read. The important thing in a case like that is to somehow get that family to buy into the fact that reading is important.
When we do things a little differently than in the past, we're able to engage parents, and they will realize that we're certainly looking to support the learning of their child in different ways. And we know that in bringing them together with us, it provides them too with resources and support, so that they're not feeling that they're overwhelmed by everything.
The single parent family dynamic has a significant impact on how children fare. Some children turn out great, but too many of them don't turn out well enough.
My mother never had a literacy problem.
The difficulty with her was coming here in this country. She was single, alone with 4 children, and she was very isolated. It was just survival for her. Food, clothes, shelter, paying the rent, paying the bills.
The social status of the parents in terms of their level of education, their inclination to reading, their ability to support the children in their reading habits, good reading habits, their self-care in terms of physical, emotional health can definitely affect the outcomes for children. If you are poor and stressed out, that affects how you sleep, how you concentrate, your mood, how you eat, how you manage difficult situations, how you discipline your kids, your self-esteem. All of those things can contribute to the level of literacy in the household.
My experience is the fact that a couple of problems. One, my parents were, I would use the word aloof because my dad used to sit at the dinner table and stare into space, thinking about things, and no communication at all, no verbal, no nothing. And that was my dad. And my mom, she's the one who scolded me for just about everything. And he said, yeah, your teacher says you don't pay attention to this and that, but she never did nothing about it. All she did was yell. So there's a disconnect between children and the parents at times. And that causes problems too because the child doesn't develop.
I know once I got to high school, there was no one there to pay attention to whether I got up in the morning to go to school or not, because she was already at work. She just had to trust that we went to school, and I realized I can even take advantage of that situation. So I myself pretty much stopped going to school. I didn't really care to be there. And the teachers, after a while, they kind of give up. There's only so much they can do.
There's a boy on my attendance that I have never seen, grade 9 class. That's a 14-year-old. I have never seen him. Don't know who he is. I've spoken to his mother, and she says she'll try to get him to school, but she was never successful. I don't know who he is.
One of the things that you notice working with young people for so many years is that they're looking for empowerment. They're looking for decision-making capabilities over their own lives. They have power over their own lives. And when you go to a school and you're trying to navigate a school system, if you have low literacy levels, you're not going to do so well in school. It's going to be a big challenge, right? And some students are really good at hiding those challenges, right? They can make it all the way through grade 8 through grade 9 without being detected of having low literacy levels. Those students, right, when they're in school, they don't normally do as well. And if they're not doing as well, they feel like they can't speak out in class. They feel like they can't answer questions. They feel like they're not going to do well. And if you feel like you're not going to do well, you're not going to want to participate in school more. And if you're not participating in school, then you're going to look for other places of power, right? You're going to look for other places where you feel empowered, where you feel like you can get control and have control over your own life. And sometimes that takes a negative turn.
They get in trouble. If you're idle, if you're not learning, if you're not moving forward, you're going to find other things to do, and they're probably not going to be positive and legal, welcome things for our communities.
A young man or a young woman might feel that their only potential for themselves really is that they have to go out and sell a dime bag, because that's what they believe is normative. You begin to see that in the community.
Their values are not about who they are. It's about what they have, what they own, what they can show off. So sometimes instead of going to school, it's about just making money.
There needs to be more engagement. There needs to be like new methods of engagement, right? Because whatever we have been doing up till now is not working, right? That means something has to change.
One of the most important things I think that we need to address as educators is that our children are our greatest resources in classrooms. And the families of the children that we teach also bring with them a whole host of ethnic and cultural resources with them that teachers really need to tap into.
From an Aboriginal perspective and from an Aboriginal worldview, I'd like to look at the curriculum in the school, and are there enough books on our history, and are there enough books that reflect the culture of the students that they're serving, if that's the majority of kids in that classroom?
There are resources out there
that they can connect with and that they can see themselves in. And again, that's creating authenticity. I think it's really important to create authenticity. I think it's really important to let the children know that you do care about who they are, what they do, what their cultural background is.
You have to kind of engage them in different ways because they're being engaged outside of school, I'll tell you that. Turn on the TV, there's Scandal, there's all these other things going on that they're catching that, you know what I'm saying? So they're gonna catch what's going on in class as well. But you have to understand them first and foremost, and when you understand them, you'll be able to teach them.
Once upon a time, literacy was not so much a requirement. To get by, you could easily get a job and function in society with very low levels or no literacy. Today, that's not possible.
What would have been considered perhaps adequate literacy level 50 years ago or 100 years ago won't survive in today's society because it's just too much other information that's needed.
Comes to mind a story of a gentleman that we supported here for quite some time who brilliant, absolutely a brilliant carpenter, brilliant with his hands. He can make anything. And he had a steady job, and a new company took over the company that he was working for, and everything had to be done by manual. So he was brilliant at his job, had all kinds of years of seniority, and couldn't read the manual, and he was let go. I doubt that story is an isolated case.
What I've noticed during the intake of the adult literacy program is those that have come in to register and to be part of it are actually Canadian born. So that is quite, that would be a shock to many. Yes, we do live in a newcomer area, but at the same time though, we have those who are born here who also struggle with literacy.
I don't always get my point across because I can't always write what I want to write. So I just write what I can write because I don't want people to see too many spelling errors in my stuff. So that kind of affects what I'm able to get across to people on paper. You know, if everybody texted, it'd be okay because then I could just abbreviate everything. So, but no, that's not good for jobs or resumes.
Once I was ashamed of it and embarrassed, and I suppose I still feel that to some degree, but I know better. I know it's a world that accepts things more than it ever used to. But whatever level you're at, is that's what you get in life, because if you have low skills, you're going to get low paying jobs.
With literacy, it's how you read, how do you feel about yourself. So sometimes, I mean, you don't really feel to take on certain things because certain things will show that you don't want to show. Because when people can't read as well as they're supposed to, you want to hide it.
You have to get beyond the shame and the guilt that you can't do it. There's so many systems that are around that people, maybe due to being embarrassed, don't ask the questions. But once they're there, there's people such as yourself, myself, staff who are able to help you and navigate your way through.
What we're noticing in this area is families don't seem to be accessing the services that are available in the same way that we're seeing in some of the other areas of Scarborough. It could just be simply requiring more outreach, that we're not telling families in a way that is helpful to them to understand what's available.
Sometimes though, people are just not aware of it, or they're not resourceful. Either they're not getting out into the community to find out what's going on, because there's information boards everywhere. Every community center, every public library, every earlier center, there are community information boards everywhere.
Okay, the ones that can't read, how will they know? The ones that don't speak English, how will they know?
The worst thing that can happen is that we've got all of this in terms of strategies and programs, but no one's coming out to a particular event. No one is joining up for a particular course. So we need to make sure that we talk with them, listen to them around their particular needs, and then with that, customize the program so that it meets their needs and obviously the needs of the children that are involved.
The earlier a child learns to read, the better their outcomes are in terms of possibly going to university. Right? There's a direct correlation between the age at which a child learns to read and their academic success later on. the greater the academic success, the less likely they are to contract HIV or to have early teen pregnancies, right? I mean, there's a lot of connection between reading early and life outcomes later on.
In the schools, if they would fund the early intervention programs rather than trying to fix the problems when all the other social issues get in the way, like their peers and the need to get a job or the pull off skipping class or those kinds of things get in the way, it would be simple. It would just really spend your resources and help the little ones to learn how to read. They wouldn't be afraid of school as much as they are.
We need to create opportunities in schools to provide the resources that may or may not be available in homes.
It's a group effort around reading. It's a group effort around learning. And I think that we have the resources and tools to make that work. I think the challenge for some of us is to be consistent around it, to continue to ensure that we have that quality time. I know that I still advocate strongly that no child should go to bed without a book being read to that particular child. That should be just a given. In some homes that's done without a thought, in other homes hit and miss. And I really do feel that we have the capacity and understanding of what we ought to do. The fact that we haven't done it is the challenge for all of us.
The reality is that a lot of this work is going to take time, building up the institutional capital, building up the social capital, creating the right conditions.
In this community, there haven't been a lot of institutions that deliver the service. And what we got to try and do is build institutions, things that outlast me and everyone else that is here, but that will be there for the long term for families, as opposed to looking at these short-term organizations that do not exist after a period of time.
We have to think about what is it going to take to make a shift. So 20 years from now, we're not simply putting out fires of low literacy because all the other systems are failing. And we're still running around like the fire brigade, putting out the fires. But the fires are just getting more plentiful because our society is becoming even more unequal.
Educate the people so that nobody needs to be on welfare no more. Nobody needs to be on those disability assistance programs. Educate the people, teach them how to read and write, and watch them succeed. And watch our country do better, our city do better.
This generation is going to be the people who are going to lead our country. So what kind of students do we want to turn out? Do we want to turn out students who are disengaged, students who are standing on the street, or do we want to turn out students who want to make a difference in our community?
This is where I started off. This is where I won my first spelling bee. This is where everything really happened for me. Being the first out of my family to go to university is really important for me. But it's important for me to come back because I know that there are so many other youth that have the potential to go really far and to do so many things, but they just need that backbone. They just need that one person that will believe in them and that will, give them the resources and push them forward. And I really want to be that person to come back and show them that, hey, I did it, and I'm here if you need me to help you do it too.
And that's what communities need. People to stay, to lay down roots and commit to making the community better.
I think the moment we feel that we're just overwhelmed and this is just an untenable task is when we probably need to regroup and refocus to say that this can be done.
I encourage you to listen to the panel and the experts and learn and be readers. Model it for your kids. Show the kids how you value reading. It's so important in their life. Keep the doors open for your children's success and just enjoy reading with them. Thank you and have a great evening.